Yeah, I'm still up. Yay! So I actually get the opportunity to introduce my brother, Nate, Nathan O. Thornhill, and me, hermano, because he is very bravely fills his space as a Latinx Black man. Is it okay that I say that? He's here, and we actually went to high school together for sure, and we went to college together, and we've been connected ever since, and I'm so grateful for that. He's truly my brother, and he is here really representing secondary education because he is a high school teacher. And so, yeah, Nate, can you go ahead and respond to the prompts and say whatever else you want to say on your behalf?
Sure. First and foremost, thank you for that kind introduction. My name is Nathan Thornhill. As Tiandra said, I'm a Black and Latino male. I said Black on purpose first. Also, I say that just to highlight the connections between being Black and Latino, which I can touch on later if it becomes relevant in the conversation. But I'll respond first to the prompt by saying that I've worked in education for going on 15 years now. I've worked with kindergarten all the way through college. That's why I say that all grades are my favorite, because I think all grades provide opportunities for people to empower themselves and for young people to make connections with themselves, learn more about themselves. They can empower them for the future. And my favorite subject was Spanish, because my mother side of the family is from Puerto Rico, and I was raised in Xenia, Ohio. So she did the generic example of making sure she spoke to me in English so I would feel like I fit in with my friends. But when I went to Spanish class, that's how I started to decipher and learn how to write the things that my mother was expressing. So it was more than a subject, it was me discovering myself. Mute.
Thank you for that. At this time, I'm going to introduce Aaron Slocum. And he actually is a brother of mine, y'all. And it's just organic because, you know, if I meet somebody, you become family, period. So when I'm embraced, I latch on, and I'm so grateful for that. Aaron, we met at Indiana State University in higher education. I know that he has experience. I think his first major was in sports management. I also want to quickly just go back and say that Nathan also is a student athlete all the way through college, very competitive and still in life. So for my student athletes out there, he will speak a little bit to that because this is important. Aaron actually started in sports. He still competes in basketball, in club sports in college, because that's a thing that you can do that's in college. He has now most recently completed his PhD, y'all, and he's Dr. Aaron. Excuse me for not introducing him as such. Dr. Slocum is in the house, and so I'll go ahead and mute my mic.
Hello, everybody. Tiandra, thank you for that beautiful introduction. My name is Aaron Slocum. I work at Indiana State University in the Mentoring Center. When it comes to my favorite grade, I don't have a favorite grade. I just love learning, but I also love working with youth and also young adults or young adolescents. So really helping anyone develop, no matter where they're at, really providing that support and that guidance and that challenge to help them become the person that they want to be. So I'm happy to be here. My favorite subject, I would like to say, probably was, I don't know. I don't know my favorite subject. I was sitting here trying to think of a question or of a favorite subject, and I don't. I just love learning. So thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm ready to engage in conversation.
Dope. Thank you. Hey, that's a beautiful answer. What we'll learn, and something that we've all learned, especially I can speak to myself, Aaron, and Nate, is that the answer is not always linear. So just because you're taking a multiple choice test, because right now our education system loves standardized tests because it's easy, and doesn't mean that your answer was wrong if you got it wrong. So don't measure yourself based off of a metric or a grade, Because if you know why you got to a certain place and they just said it was wrong, go back and for yourself understand how that answer you thought was correct is linked, if that makes any sense. When somebody asks you a question, you don't have to give a cookie cutter. You don't have to stay in the box. Color outside the lines is all I'm saying. And that's how you become Dr. Slocum. So at this time, I am going to ask and invite Amal, and I didn't prepare this prior. Thank you.
So I'm going to be introducing the Maya Pollard. She's one of my favorite humans in the world. Obviously, you guys see me getting excited. Maya used to actually be my previous supervisor at Columbus State, and she's worked with college students for years, a lot of years. And so that's why she's like a superwoman. She's literally helped change the lives of so many students. And so I know right now she's currently working on her doctorate, taking a pauser real quick because she's prego. And I know I just threw that out there. Congratulations. But yeah, and so she's super awesome, super dope. She's working at Chase now, working with college students for internships and things like that. And so I'm gonna pass the mic to you, Pollard, because you're super dope and you're gonna represent.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Shahabi Bobby, as I affectionately call her. And I want to first and foremost say thank you, Tiandra and the Lead the Way Learning Academy for creating a space. This week, this month, this year has been a challenge. And so it feels good to be around my people, to be around folks who believe in the future and just want to change this world one person at a time. So thank you for creating a space for us and for allowing me to be able to join the conversation. So thank you first and foremost. As Amal shared, I'm 6 months pregnant. So if I run out of breath, bear with me. It's a side effect that I had no idea would come. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But yes, and to Dr. Slocum, congratulations. I'm trying to be there with you, brother. It's gonna take me a little while, but I'm making my way. I too am a graduate of Bowling Green State University, in their sport management team department. When I started out, I wanted to own the Philadelphia Eagles. Hey, see, Tiandra, we're supposed to be best friends. But I realized I didn't make enough money. And so I went back to school and I fell in love with school. And I've always been in love with school. Started out in trio programs. And from there, my life have just expanded out. I'm an Upward Bound grad. My favorite subject favorite grade in school was kindergarten because it was my first and one of my only experiences where I had a Black teacher. And I just remember it being a space where I felt loved and I felt like family. And I've been in predominantly PWI institutions from elementary on up and through my graduate programs. And in that space, it was one of the first times where I fell in love with education, not only just because of what we were doing, but because of the space that she created. And I've been trying to do that my entire professional career ever since. So again, that's kindergarten for me. And I'm just looking forward to joining in the conversation. So again, thank you for having me, and let's make this happen, change the world.
Thank you so much, Maya. The only reason, y'all know I am an active listener. And we'll get to that. We'll get to culturally appropriate education and epistemology, because I think that's really important. And those are big words now, but I have them written down and pinned because I know everyone's going to be able to speak to that. And it's going to empower us in a way where we'll all be able to emphatically say we love to learn, because truly we all do. It's ingrained in us. Maya, thank you so much. Congratulations. I get the absolute privilege of introducing our founder, Miss Jacqueline. I only get to call her that, so don't call her that. Miss Jackie Kemp. I absolutely love her. I actually have to take my time Welcome, welcome. I have to take my time to make sure that I say what I want to say, and that I don't take too much time because we're here to do a job. But when I was being recruited to apply to this position, I was disheartened by the education system based on my personal story. And I was living my life serving in a restaurant, and a barista to a coffee shop, and hustling, doing 2 jobs. But guess what? I felt free. And the only way I could come back here is if Lead the Way Learning Academy was who they said they were, period. And if my values were honored, and my number one value is freedom. And what I found in language is that if an organization and an entity and people know that, if they allow me to be free, I will go above and beyond what you can ever think or imagine in what's accomplished. And truly, Lead the Way Learning Academy is that space. And it's because of our founder, and it's because of her leadership, and it's because of her vulnerability, and it's because of the vision that has been given to her, and her ability and desire to take heed to that and be willing to grow daily. And so I'll actually stop. Jacqueline Kemp is a beautiful woman who has a beautiful story. I invite you all to visit our website if you haven't. Not her full story, but a good story is there. And one day we're gonna post a video that actually tells her story. So you'll be able to find that on YouTube in the future. But at this time, I'm just gonna really quickly say that Jacqueline Kemp, right after high school, went to the military. In the military, she not only earned her associates, but she earned her bachelor's. Then she retired. Then she went and got her master's at Ohio State University. Then she went and got her associates at Columbus State University, and she's still committed to learning today. Miss Jackie, it's on you,
Oh
girl.
my God, I feel like bust loose. Girl, that was so good. Thank you, Tiandra. I mean, I am so humbled by that. I am seriously humbled. So you asked the question, what was your favorite grade? When I was growing up in school, I had no favorite grade. I was actually, my educational experience was a result of the civil rights movement. So I grew up in the hood, but I was bused outside of my community to a predominantly white community. I joined the military right out of high school. So within my first 3 years, I actually worked on and received an associate's because I had some really great mentors who I didn't have a choice, actually. I had to go through training. I had to take college courses. One of the best things that could have ever happened for me personally, that in the military, I had people that invested in me, people that believed in me, people that genuinely wanted to see me successful. So while I did not have a favorite grade in high school, my children, I have 2 of them, my son and my daughter, I was that parent extraordinaire. I took my lunch breaks once a week. I was in the school. I was on every kind of parent committee from child care center on up. And every grade was important. In every grade, I found value. So continuing my education, I knew when I was before I got out the military, how important it would be for me to have my bachelor's.
My first full-time college experience was after I retired from the military. I was the old lady in school in class because most everyone else was right out of high school, college, working and directly into their master's degree, which is great. And I wanted my own children to have that experience. But the one thing I love about education, Tiandra, you mentioned that it's not linear. I mean, there's so many opportunities, and I always like to share with young people that it's not how you start, it's how you finish, and that you finish strong. And there really technically never is a finish. I'm always in class, I'm always doing a workshop, there's always something to be done, something to learn. So thank you. I'm excited to be here.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much. We're just going to continue to move right along. So the next component of our agenda is to view the lyrics of Prophet. That's my own language. I don't mean it to be disrespectful. Lupe Fiasco, okay? And we're going to read lyrics to a song. I actually am open to figuring out how to do this. And this is where we're going to be interactive. I need for you to go ahead and click a green check mark if you feel so led to read part of these lyrics with us so we can read them in concert with one another. You'll have a stanza to read, and then we'll pass it off to the next person. So if you feel comfortable doing that with the mic, go ahead and click yes. If you want to emphatically say, Tiandra, it is not me, don't choose me, then go ahead and click no, the red button, okay? And thank you, Dr. Vici, for being here. I will send everybody at the medical school the link to the YouTube. I appreciate so much that you made an effort to be here today. And we'll be able to edit out your name if you want that done. All right. Oh, yes. All right. So I see that Ernest, that Lauren, and myself are all open to reading these lyrics. And so I'm actually going to change the program a little bit if she so desires and have Lauren read them on behalf of us. Lauren, Ernest and I are here to support you, but I know you got it, girl. But if you're tired today, or if you just want to do a stanza like I said initially, you get to say that too. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And so you all are about to see genius.com lyrics from Lupe Fiasco. And okay, I shared the wrong screen. Thank you for your patience. All right. Is it getting larger at all? Ernest, I might ask you to help me out. There we go. A little patience helps. There we go. All right. So, Janila Forever, you live. Lauren, you want to read it all, or you want me to start, or you let me know?
Can you start off?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You live forever. How about them bullets ain't slow you up? You ain't really died, and we watched you grow up. At 12 months, you took your first steps, awkwardly across the kitchen floor to your best. Your first breaths that we can all call words were in your father's lap on November 23rd, and they were live for me, and he did for you. flipped to neutron and stayed inside the crib for you. And this commitment from your father imparted a deep sense of value you forever harbor. We were all so proud as when we seen you getting smarter and the bond grow deeper between a mother and a daughter. Because you were not a martyr, you live. The hook says, find out I was just a bad dream. Goodbye, Lauren. You're gonna do such a beautiful job.
At 6, you started reading whole books. At 7, you knew how the brain looked and could roughly describe all the different regions, could tell when we was sick and even know the reason. The world wasn't at peace, gunfire every weekend, but you were hardly there because you was always leaving. Field museums, planetarium, the aquarium. You saw something special in the tank you were staring in. And in those moments as a little girl, you realized there was a bigger world, bigger than the South Side, bigger than Chicago. You were bigger. Still wanted rims on your car though, a big ass woofer in your car door. So you can wang like your daddy at the park eating sharks. Went to King where you were teased for being smart, where you bumped into Hindia teaching art. You live forever. Finding out I was just a bad dream. Neither ever nor never. Goodbye. Neither ever nor never. Goodbye. Neither. At 16 is when you got your scholarship. At 22 is when you got your doctorate. Even now, it's kind of hard to believe, but your father taught you. Work hard and achieve, and you complied. Accepted by every medical school you applied. But the coolest thing is when they offered you that high paying spot. You replied, they need me in the hood, and that's where you reside. Free clinic, nobody denied. And that's where you heard the shots and quickly ran outside and saw a man in a van and a bleeding baby in his hands. Fading fast, but you knew she could survive. Did everything you could to keep this girl alive, stabilized until the ambulance arrived. And in that moment where you gave your help, I bet you didn't know that you saved yourself. Fold down your hands, give me a sign. Hooked on your lies, you live forever. Lie down next to me. Don't listen when I scream. Bury your doubt and fall asleep. Lord have mercy.
Whew. I'm just gonna say thank you, Lauren, because literally that was something that was a concept that was given to me at some point this morning. And I didn't brief Lauren at all. And I'm so grateful, Lauren, that you always step up. But what I want to share with you is that you always don't have to step up, because we are very similar, and I'm just learning that. And I'm here to support you. Because everybody learns differently. And because honestly, for me and how I learn, I am just going to repeat the verse 3. And I actually want a hands up actually everybody put their no's and yeses down from the last thing, because that's no longer a thing. And so would it be helpful for you to see the words while I read it? Or is it okay if I just read it? Nate's telling me to just read it. I got you, brother. All right, I'm just gonna read it. All right, at 16, when you got your scholarship. At 22 is when you got your doctorate. Even now, it's kind of hard to believe, but your father taught you work hard and achieve, and you complied. Accepted by every medical school you applied, but the coolest thing is when they offered you that high-paying slot, you replied. They need me in the hood, and that's where you reside. Free clinic, nobody denied. And that's where you heard the shots and quickly ran outside and saw a man in a van and a bleeding baby in his hands, fading fast, but you knew she could survive. Did everything you could to keep this girl alive, stabilized until the ambulance arrived. And in that moment where you gave your help, I bet you didn't know that you saved yourself. Ernest, you can lead right now. And you don't have to, but I just needed a moment to black out my screen.
Oh no, I'm
So
here
thank
for
you
that.
for being ready.
Yeah, no, I'm here for
And
that.
thank you for letting me be my full self.
Yeah. So I mean, just to honor that, I think there was a lot of ties to education in that piece. So I would like to open to the panelists and just kind of get your initial reaction to how you responded to that verse and how that kind of aligns with your own personal view on education. Feel free to jump in. So just initial reactions.
It reminded me personally of going to grad school. For all of us who have been there and all of those who are going there, you have to write these personal statements and you have to think about why you want to do this work. And I remember early on mentioning how I know that my educational attainment isn't for my own benefit, but it's about what I can give to others through it. And so in hearing that line, it just really made me think about I am because we are, and the importance of really making sure that we align our purpose and our passion to give back to those who are to come, those who came before us, honor those, but also to be a living and breathing example and support. Sorry if you hear my kid and my dog in the background, I apologize in this moment. To be a living and breathing example of this world that's bigger than you. And so I think in that moment when in the line that she know that she was saving herself, that young girl was essentially the embodiment of her. And so it just made me really think about how for me, and I believe many others of you on this call right now, I'm assuming that you're here because someone else believed in you, someone else saved you through education. And that's what's leaving you here and guiding you in your work in education. And I'm just, again, honored to be amongst you all doing this great work that is a never ending, ever selfless thing. And I commend you and honor you, and really, really felt that line from Lupe.
Thank you, Maya. And if I may, you said something. So we all are we're not under a stay-at-home mandate, but we're in a different time, bro. And it's a pandemic, or it's not, because all of a sudden we want our haircuts and but I digress. It's a beautiful thing. It's an act of God that you have babies. And so there's no reason to apologize for babies in the background, or dogs, or whatever it is, or partners, because we're human and we should be allowed to fully exist in every environment that we are in. So thank you for having babies, and thank you, baby, for crying. I invite anybody else to respond to that prompt that Ernest so eloquently just responding to the verse. Anything else? Any initial thoughts, panelists?
I think about that verse makes me think about when I was in Milwaukee, Wisconsin growing up. My mother instilled education in me and told me at that age that was the way to make it out of our neighborhood. So in hearing those lyrics, it brought myself back to think about when I was a little kid and hearing her voice and doing homework at the table us making it through, I say us because she supported me all the way through high school, through college, through a master's, and currently now through a PhD. So being able to think back when she instilled those small nuggets about how education is important and how I now see myself reaching back. And that's in my job now as the director of the Mentoring Center, really trying to provide students the assistance that they need. So that hit me when I was able to hear those lyrics by Lupe.
Yeah, piggybacking off of that, I agree. I reflect on my mother who had to work all the time. She was a single mother, so she wasn't at home certain times. My sister, who was 5 years older, would definitely look out for us. She was the mom when my mom wasn't there, but my mom also was very intentional. She left my headboard full of books. She left us with those old floppy disk computer games that were all educational. And so as a kid, I didn't know the difference. I just knew if I went to a certain place without my mom's permission, I was gonna get my butt whooped. And all the games were gonna teach me something to where I got to learn my multiplication tables in school, and I had already learned them from these computer games, sentence structure, all that. And I didn't know what my mother was doing until I got older. And it's like, it deepens my appreciation for her. And also just the reality that, like Sister Pollard said, that we're all standing on somebody's shoulders. Like, I wouldn't be here talking to you guys without people that invested in me, which is the reason that I work where I work. I teach specifically in public schools in areas where I feel my talents are needed, not necessarily where I feel like I could get the most prestige or whatever it may be, because I came from one of those public schools and people empowered me to dream beyond my circumstances. So Lupe, I'm a fan of Lupe in general, but those are my specific reflections about that verse.
For me, it reminded me of my aunt, my great aunt. As I said, my schooling was a result of the civil rights movement. And my aunt would always say, make sure you get your education because they can't take it away from you. And she always emphasized that. When I was growing up, graduating from high school was a big deal. And so just kind of thinking through that, for me, I joined the military rather than trying to go to school because I just really was that teenager that I think if I had another week in high school in my senior year, I probably would have dropped out. That's just where I was at that time. Moving forward, all of my experiences and absolutely everything that I've got growing up, I try to give back right now. I love the work that I do. I love investing in young people. I love pushing the college, not even college really, but for a person to really challenge themselves. It's not always about college, but it is about education and learning in the journey. So I thought that was amazing.
That's awesome. So there's been a lot of things that have been said, and as brilliant as everyone is on this call, the next thing that I'm going to do is just mention some of these topics that have arisen. After I mention them, I'm also going to put them in the comments. But everybody's brilliant here. And so panelists, I'm going to mention these topics, pick one and stream of consciousness, and then we'll keep rolling. So culturally appropriate education in epistemology, with the question of, in response to the question of what's your favorite grade, and knowing that other cultures don't do it like our Western society does through our public education system. It's not the same if we go to a monastery school versus if we were going to school. Yeah, okay. The next one is pursuing athletics and sports. Who knew that 4 of us here, actually, our whole reason for going to school, kind of, not whole reason, but something about it was sports related. That's at least 4 of us here. I know that one of our AMP coaches has a story as it pertains to athletics. And I think that it's very important to speak to because it's not a monolith but we shouldn't just condemn our young people when they say they want to be a professional athlete. I think that there's more opportunity there. So that's one. The other one is the fact, like, having patience for, I don't know if it's patience or holding space for our young people. So what has come for you in the position of a mentor, educator, somebody that's been in that role, like leader in leadership, to give young people and ourselves the opportunity to grow into our greatest self? And I'll just quickly share, I know that I was like, people did not like me as a teacher at first. Oh my goodness, she's so hard, she's so mean. And then like four years later, I would get this knock on my door, and this is when I started teaching. And it was, Miss Finch, thank you so much. Thank you so much for pushing me, right? So speaking of that, Maya, you mentioned Upward Bound and TRIO programs. There's really room there. You mentioned PWIs and HBCUs. There's really room there. Is higher education and college necessary? There's a question for you. And then we've talked about our mothers, parents, and mentors, and what societal landscape does to our relationship with education. Because Miss Jackie said something about civil rights movement and how it was go get your education. And I know that for the rest of the panelists, all of us, we're about in the same decade or so. And so we were encouraged, go to school, go to school, go to school. And I think that there's an opportunity for a shift. So those are the topics I'll put in words. But yeah, please, by all means, floor is yours.
Is higher education necessary? That was a question. I have to say, I had a lot of experience. So I got my degree because I had experience, and I was hoping that my pay would be commensurate because of the degree. I found that going to school as an older person with experiences versus many of my peers at that time who were younger and had just gone from high school to just gotten their bachelor's, and now they're working on their master's degree, no experience. I mean, it was just totally, totally different in terms of how we responded to answers, how we responded to questions, papers, and a lot of different information. But I guess it depends on the person and what it means to each individual. I got my degrees because I didn't want to be held back by not having it, if that makes any sense.
So I have two different views on this. First, I would say having a degree really only shows that you're trainable. It shows that you're able to get through a process. A person can learn a trade and make more money than a person who has a PhD or a degree. So having a degree is not necessarily, it's something that we want you to strive for, but it's not necessarily something that needs to happen or something that you need to have to be successful in life. I think success is based off of what you as an individual set your goals to be. If you want to be a beautician or if you want to be an entrepreneur, that's on you. And that success is based on your personal needs and your personal wants, and it shouldn't be society. Society will tell you that you need to have a formal education to be successful in this world. But I also, from my personal experience, all of my degrees were, and stuff for undergrad, was a hookup. So my master's degree, I came to Indiana State University, and they were paying for my tuition because I was working in the residence halls. Hey, free degree. There we go. And currently I work at Indiana State, so my benefits pay for majority of my degree. So I have 3 degrees that was technically hookups. So I would have been foolish to not take advantage of that. But I do have to alliterate that having a degree, it's not mandatory to be successful, and to not fall into what you believe society needs you to have. Because a plumber probably right now is probably making more than me, and I have a PhD. So just how you think about it.
Respect. I agree with Miss Jackie. I'm sorry, I didn't get your name. Says Mentoring Center Ehrlich, right? Dr. Ehrlich?
Aaron.
Okay, Aaron. Cool. Yeah, I agree with you guys that I think that education can be incredibly impactful, but it depends on your hustle and your willingness to dive in and get involved. Like when I reflect on my collegiate experience, undergrad at Capital University, I met nice people. I had awesome professors, but I would say the most impactful experiences were the extracurriculars. Like I ran track all 4 years. And that ties into the athletic piece where when you do athletics, it's just constantly introducing you to that voice of doubt in your head. So in the context of track, we'd run to the brink of vomiting 6 days a week. But every time you practiced, you would get an invitation like, yo, I don't know how my legs are still moving. I might faint, et cetera. And the more you push through that, I think that directly relates to your ability to push through challenges like when you're not on the track. And another impactful experience I had was study abroad. I'm a firm believer, and through my travels, I started off, had never been out of the country. I studied abroad in Spain when I was 19, and it blew my mind. Just the simple fact that there were people across the Atlantic Ocean that had distinct cultural norms for me, and that was okay. Like my American mindset didn't mean anything out there in comparison to this society that already had like thousands of years of civilization that weren't necessarily in line with America. So that not only taught me, it made me more curious about other people, but it also highlighted to me that when you're born and raised and conditioned in a community or in a society, everyone's doing the best they can to empower you with tools and insight based on their experiences that'll make you stronger. But the thing is also that can be limiting in the sense that if you don't look outside of how you've been conditioned, then you may not see in certain ways that we're conditioned to do certain things, which reminds me of the Lupe Fiasco lyric that we referred to, where he talked in one stanza about a young lady getting her doctorate degree and another one about how her lure for a car with rims and a system in it is kind of like speaking to that conditioning that we may have depending on what culture we come from. And I think it's our responsibility as educators to encourage students to find their level of self and find their voice within and outside of their own culture and their conditioning, because sometimes conditioning in itself holds us back from making stronger connections and empowering ourselves to think more globally and see how that impacts the local. So no, I don't think that you need a degree to be successful, but if you don't have hustle, a degree isn't gonna help you. Like I talk to my students regularly about this over the years. I've had students that have started businesses instead of going to college, students that have been models, musicians, whatever it may be. And the common denominator is they had hustle. So I've seen students that were valedictorian in high school didn't really make it in college because they didn't necessarily have the hustle or the independence to take care of their business when there wasn't someone over them saying you have to be in this class for 46 minutes and this is what you have to accomplish within it. So I think that if you have hustle and you're curious and you want to learn, you're going to make it with or without a degree. But I always tell my students, if you don't know what you want to do, go to college and figure out more about yourself and figure out more about the opportunities that your community has for you, as well as opportunities that you didn't know existed. And then you can have a more clear idea of what it is that you want to do, in my personal opinion.
So I agree with my brothers and sisters on this call, but I think there's lots of I struggle with this because education was my passport out of poverty, right? So I say all the time that education saved my life. However, I will say that my degrees is what got me to the table to be able to get the interview, to be able to show who my true self was, to be able to create a legacy and a different experience for my children and my cousins, my friends, you know. So I have a love for learning. I have a love for education, and systemically, how I was raised, college was the way to go because, again, my grandparents, my grandmother worked in a maternity ward. She wasn't a nurse because she didn't have a degree, but she was a help in a maternity ward. My grandfather retired from Chrysler, and they told my aunts and uncles that you had a choice. You had to do at least 1 year of college. You had to graduate from high school, and you had to do 1 year of college, and then you can decide what you want to do. fortunately, those opportunities and careers wasn't available in my generation to go to Ford or Chrysler, you know? And so I think that my upbringing and education was centered around what was going on societally, right? And so my mother was just doing the best that she could because she wanted better for me. However, I truly believe that exposure equals expansion. That's something I tell my students all the time. Experiential learning, studying abroad, you know, meeting people that helps you think differently, then can open up those doors to other opportunities outside of, you know, just going the traditional route. So I think that this love-hate relationship, I know what education had did for me, and something I tell my students all the time, and to all the young people that's listening to this and that's participating in this organization, what I would say all the time is, if what you want to do requires a degree, then that is something that you should think about. Because if you don't have that piece of paper, even though it's, for the most part, it's a credential, right, that you put on a resume. They don't ask for my transcripts all the time unless they really want to know. And as I moved from higher education or education in general to corporate America, these folks have bachelor's degrees, you know, and, you know, our CEOs. And so I'm more educated than these individuals. And so I don't think it's about specifically the degree, but I think it's about what you want to do. And if what you want to do is tied to that, then unfortunately you have to create a space and a place that you want to be in that realm between, is this degree required for you? But if what you want to do doesn't require that, then hey, I would say that it's not. So, but for me, it was required. For me, going to college and getting my degree in sport management, and me interning with the Special Olympics and interning with professional sports helped me classify or differentiate between having a job and having a career that created a passion for me, where I knew that I wanted to be a part of something that was bigger than myself and not just making a profit, right? And that led me to going to get my master's, led me into TRIO programs, led me into student engagement and leadership, led me to transition to corporate America, where they're creating a path for people that look like me to enter in that space. And so it's just this ever-changing piece, but it wouldn't have started had I not had my degree and had I not had a passion for education. So yes and no. However, I'm not gonna lie, it worked out for me. And I just encourage others to think about, you know, what are the requirements so you can get that seat at the table.
I think I'd like to add also, Maya, just your comment made me think about all of the different experiences. It made me think about in my family, I'm number 7 of 8 kids. I was the only one to join the military. My kids were the first to graduate from high school, graduate with their undergraduate degrees. My son went on to get a law degree. And so my son will be running for office, for judge this fall. And it's just and I sit back and I wonder, like, wow, this is amazing that my kids had experiences that really pushed them, expanded them. They didn't have, their choices were like, when you graduate college, Army, Navy, Air Force, Peace Corps, Marines, it doesn't matter. You got to go do something. And so those different experiences are really important. And, you know, when you talk about building and standing on somebody's shoulders, so I have nieces now nieces and nephews who graduated from college. And so it gets bigger and bigger, so.
That's beautiful. I think that out of nowhere, my technology got fed up. And so, you know, you adjust. Thank you for all of that. I just wanted to say that I know that it's a little over 2 o'clock. I think it might be 2:05 or so. And we do have a hard stop at 2:30 to be respectful of everyone's time. At this time, opened up the chat for any of our guests to enter in any questions or topics that they wanted to discuss. I also at this time was going to read in Genius the little description about Lupe's where that song came from. he actually was paying homage to two women, and I literally, the screen just turned black here in my technology. So Ernest, if you can pull that up, it would be greatly appreciated. I'd be greatly appreciative. That's how you say that. Because I'm learning, y'all. The truth is that we all come from something. Being Black in America, it is my personal opinion that we don't even realize that what we've come through is that there's trauma there. And I don't say trauma to be gimmicky or to be negative. There's a lot of beauty in the trauma that I've experienced. And Tupac said it best, but Aretha Franklin also said it, as well as, I think it might have been Lauryn Hill, maybe I got that wrong, but a rose from concrete, right? Like, everybody can get excited about, oh, roses, they're pretty when they're in the vase or when they're in a bush, but when a rose literally blooms from concrete, that's a whole nother thing. And not all of us came from the same type of concrete, but we all have a rose from concrete story, each and every one of us, all of our existences. And so there's beauty in that. There's power in getting a lot of fuel from where you come from. I don't know because of my limitation in technology right now, but I'm gonna read this really quickly. In the song that we referenced earlier, Lupe raps about an alternate reality in which Janila Watkins, which was a 6-month-old baby who was shot dead in Chicago in 2013. This alternate reality, she grows up to become an ambitious woman. In this alternate reality, Hadia Pendleton, a 15-year-old Chicago native who was murdered in a case of mistaken identity, is also alive. Hadia had previously performed at Barack Obama's second inauguration. Janila grows up a very intelligent girl and realizes that her goal is to help others prosper in the South Side rather than embrace the typical lifestyle. Overall, this song is lamentable commentary about the increasing gun violence in Chicago and the world. The song is imagining what could have happened had the father lived for her instead of for the gang he was caught up with. Lupe is also exploring the importance of a father figure, specifically for kids growing up in urban neighborhoods. It's worth noting that this song follows Don't Mess Up the Children interlude, which tackles the same subject matter. So thank you for creating space for us also to do this, because what I'm believing is I'm gonna send this to Lupe, this video, and he's gonna circulate it and everybody's gonna listen to it because it's that valuable what we've been able to do here. I don't see any comments from our guests and our family that's here with us. And so moving along, one of the last things that I wanted us to do, typically we have panelists give key takeaways or what they would say if they were speaking to our 16 to 24-year-olds that we serve, our young people. But I feel like we've done that. We've been speaking to you all. We're speaking to you. And I believe that all of us here are open and available to continuing a conversation with each one of you. Even if it's for 30 minutes, and you can treat us to virtual coffee, because that's actually a strategic move to get further in where you're trying to go and where we live. So rather than do that per se, I'm gonna invite our guests to share their education story as they're led. Everybody doesn't have to do it. But in sharing your education story, you can simply give 1 to 3 words or 1 to 3 sentences about who you are through the lens of education, or who you're becoming through that lens. You can give more color to the prompts of what was your favorite grade or what your favorite subject is. I really would challenge and empower our AMP coaches to share, because I know they each have a beautiful story. This isn't everyone's strength. So if you would rather share, or not strength, not everybody's comfort zone, something like that. If you would rather share in the comments, that's perfectly fine. If you want to decline, you're able to do that as well. But at this time, if you are interested in sharing, go ahead, and one at a time, we're going to unmute our mics. So somebody go ahead and be bold and say, I want to. And then everyone else, if you can put in the chat or raise your hand and indicate, there's a blue indicator, you can raise your hand. Out of participants, if you're on the phone, or like we talked about earlier. So that's that. Share your education story, understanding that it is 2:10, and we're going to do this for a little bit of time, and then we're going to do closing words from our panelists if we have the time. If you like, I can start, and I'll start, and then if you're interested in doing it, raise your hand. I'm going to be transparent. I don't have as much education technology as I did earlier, so I'm kind of limited in understanding what's going on. So me sharing my story, as an educator, what I've learned, because the thing is, educator is a part of my identity, and I don't have to go to school to get a degree to educate anyone, and I don't have to go to school to get a degree to be educated and to educate myself. The beautiful thing that I've learned is that after the wool was pulled over my eyes, and what the education system is in its beauty, is that it's actually a stronger skill set for me to be able to empower myself to learn on my own without the comfort zone of the structure that became comfortable for me because I learned how to achieve in it. So I'm going to share that, and then say that as an educator, I know that it's very important to be vulnerable, transparent, and present. And I think as an educator, we should be the most transparent, vulnerable, and present people in the room, and all of our young people or students, regardless of age, should know that. I will relinquish the mic.
I'll follow T. My educational story has been empowering the whole way, just from the fact that when I was in elementary to middle school, I didn't have really good grades, and it wasn't because I wasn't able to do the academic work. There were times where I didn't feel safe at school, or times where I didn't feel supported. But that just highlighted the teachers that went out of their way to show me that I was supported. And one of them was my 8th grade teacher, Miss Lindsay at Warner Junior High in Xenia, Ohio. I wrote a story that, if I'm being honest with all you guys, I kind of like paraphrased it from a Sports Illustrated article I read, because I was always interested in basketball. My teacher didn't know that, but she just big upped my story and told me that she would like me to write a second part because she was so interested in it. And she just always was kind to me. And I would say that was a major catalyst to me, like showing what I could do academically. I literally went from D's and C's, maybe an A in gym because that was easy. But I've been like a straight A student ever since, or maybe a couple of B's. And it wasn't because I developed some new skills that I didn't have. I just felt seen. And so throughout my whole education journey, those were the most impactful figures, just people that saw me. And I think that I take that humility with me into education, and where I seek to understand my students and where they come from. And I've also had humbling experiences as an educator when I've tried to stand very hard on that pedestal as though I'm supposed to be leading and guiding young people. I've been reminded to be humble, that they lead and guide too. And when you learn about children's experiences and they feel seen, then that's where the magic happens. And I have to speak specifically to the importance of where we talked about culturally relevant education, like me being a Black male who's also Latino, and specifically teaching in communities with people that look like me, that come from those cultures. And I teach a lot of children that are new Americans. It's especially impactful and powerful because we start from a basis of, well, hey, I see myself in you and vice versa. And if there's love and respect that follows after that, then the learning is incredible. So if there's any young person listening to this, I would encourage you to, even if it isn't your calling to be a teacher, to think of ways that you can serve, and don't get caught up in the hype of social media, which would tell you that if you're not posting a hashtag or if you're not the loudest voice, then you're not contributing. Like you could literally find one person and have a conversation with them, develop a relationship with them where you guys maybe read a book together or you share something that you've learned to listen to a person. I think that revolution comes in many forms, and that may not be the coolest or sexiest form of revolution, but I think everyone has a contribution, and it begins with just trying to understand other people. And now I've been in this education thing for a while, have degrees, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. But that's the most important, is being able to make strong connections with human beings.
Thank you both for sharing. I had to do this exercise a little while ago, so I'm going to try to remember what I said. But I think if I had to sum up my educational journey, it's the girl who wasn't supposed to. So a little bit about my birth story. I was late. The doctors wanted my mom to, early on, I wasn't developing well, and the doctors wanted her to abort me because they thought that mentally I wasn't going to be able to function. I was going to need to be in a home. And my aunts prayed over my mom's womb. And my name is 3 letters because my mom wanted me to at least be able to spell my name. And so I'm not supposed to be here, right? So from my birth story to me being a Black woman coming from the inner city of Detroit, the east side of Detroit, public school, educated, and fortunately had some opportunities to go into private schools and move into different states. I just share that because I'm not supposed to be someone pursuing a doctorate, right? I'm not supposed to be someone who worked in higher education, talking to other people, young people, and helping them achieve their dreams. And so my educational journey, again, it saved my life because it opened up my eyes to so many things that I wasn't aware of. But I think that my educational journey has always been rooted in others, right? In service to others. And so to your point, Nathan, it's really about service. And I look at my work and my education as me doing God's work, right? As me serving and giving love and light and showing that in my professional form. And so I just encourage any young person, any of my peers, any of my colleagues here to just never forget sight of that, right? Never forget that we were able to achieve things I never thought was possible. I never thought that I would be asked that Amal Shahabi, my Muslim sister from Jordan, from across the world, that we were being able to connect with each other and that we were able to build a bond that created this path for me to be here with you today. And so it's all because of my service and because of me pushing forward, regardless of statistics, regardless of my demographics, or regardless of what the world or the society said was available to me. And so I just really want to stress that, and especially as we're dealing with our populations where people count us out, right? And people don't see each other, right? And forget that every person deserves to be here and every person deserves the opportunity. And my Blackness is my power, and it is not a hindrance or something I should be ashamed of, that we create space for them, right? To be brave, to be safe, even in this world that does not make us feel safe. And so that we don't have to question how good we are or how much educated we are, or how much money we make, that we deserve to be here, and that we continue to do that because we do, like, we deserve it. And so I think that summing it up is the girl who wasn't supposed to, but I break down barriers, and that glass ceiling gets shattered every day I push through. And so that's really what it's about for me.
I'll go next. When I joined the military, I had my drill sergeant. I did extremely well in basic training. And years later, what I reflected on is the fact that there was a positive expectation that I would excel, I would get the stuff done. And when I think about my education, my secondary education, you know, people made the assumption that, oh, Jackie got a bad attitude, you know, she's not gonna do it, she's not here, you know, I was just there. And I met that low to non-existent expectation Nate, you made the comment about that you felt seen. So often as a poor person, this is me, my story through education, poor, Black, because I was bussed out to school. I didn't really fit into my community. So I had a bad attitude and behavior so I could fit in my community. I didn't fit into the community, the school I went to. And so feeling seen and being respected. I mean, who respects a poor person? Who respects somebody who lives on that side of town? Joining the military, I'm telling you, it changed my world. One, because I met people beyond my community. Two, there were expectations that, hey, and not only expectations, but listen, if you want to, with my bad attitude, I had leadership positions, so I could really be who I was and a leader. I mean, it just changed me. And so I like to let young people know that don't let people define you. God has given each of us a purpose. Each of us have a purpose. And we have to really push through and really surround ourselves with people that are going to bring out the best in us, those high expectations and the supportive environment. So yeah, I was not seen either. Nobody, when you talk about, wow, look at me, again, a lot of my folks I grew up with, they're still there. I'm here. So it was getting out, really pushing myself, and I still do that to this day.
All right, I think it's my turn. In high school, I had a guidance counselor tell me that I would never amount to anything because I was a jokester. I would always get called down to the office. And rightfully so, I was that joker and really not being serious about life. But those words motivated me to do better. Um, so I ended up starting to really hit the books hard and show her that I can do it, even though I'm still a jokester. So worked hard and really tried to prove to really myself that I can do it as well. So really worked hard, and that motivated me to show others that they can do it. So in seeking my master's degree and seeking my PhD, my whole aspect of showing other individuals that it is achievable if you work hard to get what you want. So like Nathan said, that hustle. I might not be the smartest person, and just because I now have a new title of doctor, I still know I'm not the smartest person in the world, but I am not going to let anyone else out hustle me. I can be up late at night trying to figure something out that everyone else got just like that. So that hustle is real. And proving to myself and my community that it's possible has motivated me to reach back. So when it comes to my job now, with mentoring, I'm looking to create change specifically with college age students. But I have a genuine connection with my own people. And it's just because I want to help them achieve, whether that's them saying that they want this college degree, whether they see them want to be entrepreneur. It's all based on reaching back to uplift the community and not just oneself. So really those words back in high school motivated me, and I propelled after those words because I wanted to prove to her and myself that I can do something outside of being a jokester in the classroom. So that's my words.
Thank you all so much. This has been absolutely beautiful. I am so grateful to be in the room to just hear and feel all of your energy. Thank you for again allowing me to be me. We are going to close. We will not be on here at 2:30 because why? Epistemology and being culturally appropriate. I can't sit down this long in my natural habitat. I force myself to do it for structure. I've been putting oil and keeping myself calm because I need it. And so I just encourage you to, it's okay if you're a student and you like to be moving or stand up when you're learning and not sit at a desk all day. That's perfectly fine. And we have to create spaces for you to exist too and learn when you're comfortable and when you feel safe. In summary, from what I learned, I believe that it's important for us to be strategic, intentional, and sustainable. Because of who we are, we have a lot of transferable skill sets. Dr. Slocum shared that he wasn't the smartest person. And I pushed back to say, smart in what? And whose metric? Who's defining the metric? So I encourage everyone to define your own genius, define your own identity. You're looking at a recovering straight A student because Maya mentioned that the CEOs typically are not even bachelor degree holders, they're dropouts, or they never went. So you have your own path, forge it, use us as your support, create support systems. Some of it's easier said than done. I understand that, but it develops. I'll also jump out and say, F a plan B. If you pursue your desires with your full self, it will make room for you. If you are the next NFL or NBA player, by all means, go for it. If you happen to figure out that it's truly an industry and you can actually have a goal of owning the team as part of your dream, then consider that. I thank everyone for being here. I love all of you, and I say that radically. I will quote Audre Lorde and say that radical self-love is imperative, is vital, is pivotal to political warfare. Sustainability is necessary. We have to first be here to be able to breathe. In order to be able to pursue our dreams, we have to be safe enough to sleep on a full stomach to be able to even dream. When we're just surviving, it's very difficult to do all those things, but yet and still we are resilient and we are committed to continuing to create space for self and one another. I thank you and enjoy your Friday. Thank you, Lead the Way Learning Academy. At this point, everyone can really unmute their mics and just say byes. We don't even have to record this part anymore.